Hey folks, I'm Todd Jones. I'm the host of the podcast Press Box Access. Here's a clip from my conversation with Jerry Izenberg. You want to go ringside for the Thrilla In Manilla? Well, Jerry will take us right there.
All right, Jerry, so you were ringside at one of the most famous fights ever, the Rumble in the Jungle, when Ali regains his championship from George Foreman. And then a year later, you're in the Philippines for the Thrilla In Manilla. And you can't talk Ali without talking Joe Frazier. So Ali and Frazier, the third fight in Manila, what was it like in that arena?
Was the greatest heavyweight fight ever held. Some people want to debate me on that, and I explained to them, my camel died on the way to the Cain and Abel fight, so I missed the first 2 rounds, and it ended before then. I knew who won it because I was wrong. Cain had a mark on his head, and I thought that Abel had hit him, but that wasn't what it was. So the greatest fight I ever saw was greatest heavyweight fight, probably the greatest fight that in which there were no knockdowns, which it went 14 of the 15 rounds. Unbelievable fight. And I knew things going in that a lot of guys didn't know. For example.
Well, tell us, yeah.
Yeah, I will tell you. And we'll keep it between us because I don't know how many people listen to this podcast. We'll see. I'll
millions,
find out.
Jerry, millions.
Well, then I can't tell you. I'm sorry. Well, what happened was this. Eddie Futz was the manager by then. And the trainer. Yeah, and the trainer, because Yank Durham died. And Frazier was a good friend of mine. Frazier was a marvelous man. We had a great rapport. And he used to call me the Ali man, but we did have our own relationship. Futz gets a hold of George Benton, great middleweight fighter, who now was a trainer. He says, George, I'm taking you to camp, and here's your job. We got like 2 or 3 months to get ready for this fight. And I think they knew it when he fought. I think that fight was privately made before he fought Foreman. And because he thought it would be his last fight, clean up all accounts, right? Mm-hmm. So Futz says to Benton, this is your job. Teach him to throw a right hand. I don't care if it's any good. I don't care if it misses. Ali is the most thoughtful fighter I've ever seen. We got to give him something to think about because everybody knew George was a one-handed fighter. Joe was a one-handed fighter.
Yeah, because Joe was a left hook, the mighty left hook.
He could triple up on a left hook. It was amazing.
Wasn't there something about his arm that made that especially powerful?
Yeah. His father was a sharecropper, very, very poor family. And Joe's job when he was about 10 or maybe 9 was to bring the big pig they had in and out of the sty they had him in. And he was chasing the pig in, and the pig turned on him. And he ran away, tripped over a rock, and broke his arm, and left arm. And the father looked at it. The father had one arm, by the way. Said, well, it'll be all right. We don't have any money for a doctor. It'll be all right. We'll watch it. You'll be okay. They never went to a doctor. His left arm was deformed.
Frazier's from being broken, yeah.
Yeah, and for some crazy reason, it enabled him to do more with it than most people could do with the left hand. Don't ask me why or how. That's what Joe said. That's what his son Marvis said. And that's what his daughter told me. Had to be true.
And so the left hook is what knocked down Ali in that first fight that he won, Frazier won.
I'm going to tell you a story about that in a minute. I used to tell him, hey, if your right shoelace comes untied, don't take another step because you're going to fall on your ass because you can't tie it with your right hand. You got no right hand. And Benton agreed with me. But Benton taught him to throw this little bitty right hand, and it got a little better as he learned. The whole idea was to distract him. Now, in round 1 of that fight, Frazier almost got knocked out.
Yeah, because it was one-sided early. And not only that, I wanted to ask you this. In that fight, there was no air conditioning in that arena, right?
No.
It was blazing hot.
Well, I will tell you, Marco's wife had a hand in the building of the arena, because she was like him. She stole everything that wasn't nailed down. So instead of air conditioning, they said, we'll put the roof here, a roof here, and then then the top of the building will be open, but it'll be here, and the wind will come in through the space, and everybody will be air conditioned, right? In the ring,
That's
it was
what
like
they call air conditioning.
It was about 115 degrees in the ring when they turned the lights on, maybe more. But he's losing the fight, and I'm saying I think Joe's lost it. I mean, lost it, period. He can't fight. Bing, he hits him with the right hand. Now, you got to understand something. Frazier, Joe, and he always talked to each other in the ring. And Ali talked to everybody in the ring. Ali would say to me, why do you write that crap? I don't speak in the ring. I'm focused. He was so into the fight, he didn't know what he was doing. Now, I got to digress for 1 second. We go back to the first Frazier fight. And he knows he's lost the fight. He's out for the 15th round. He's got to knock Frazier out. Mm-hmm. And Ali had this trick. He did it 3 or 4 times in his career. He could stop the clock and turn back time for like 15 seconds. After 16, then he was Ali at whatever age he was. So he comes out, and if you look at the tape, bing, bing. I mean, he's looking great. He's got to knock him out. He's screaming at Frazier. Now, I didn't hear this, of course. Frazier told me the story a week after the fight, and I know it's true because I heard him yell at about other things. He says, fool, fool, you've got to fall. It's been ordained. I will be heavyweight champ forever. You can't stand up against God. You can't stand up against God. And the second time he says that, Frazier slips a punch, left hook, side of the head, and as Ali catches this, Frazier says, well, God's getting his ass whipped tonight. That's a true story.
3 years later, they were talking again in Manila, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
You're sitting ringside, and you can hear this.
Now he yells at Frazier. You ain't got no right. And Frazier hits him with the right hand, and he stops. Didn't hurt him, but he hit him. And Ali had a boxing IQ of like 9 million. I mean, he said, something's wrong here. This guy can't throw a right hand. So he said, you ain't got no right hand. You're too old. You can't throw a right hand. You can't do it. And Frazier yells, well, you better go talk to George Benton because here comes another. Boom. Now the fight turns. Now it's like a Wall Street graph. Ali's up, Ali's down. Ali's up, Ali's down. No knockouts until the very end when they're almost dead. No clinches. Why are there no clinches? Good question. I mean, you think about this. The greatest fight ever held and no clinches that mean anything? Yeah. Heavyweights, 2 days before the fight, the Ali group registers a protest with the commission, the Filipino Boxing Commission. We do not want a Filipino to work this fight as referee. What we want is Zach Clayton. Well, of course they wanted Zach Clayton because Zach Clayton loved that Ali. Well, Futch didn't want Zach Clayton. Futch had another candidate. I think it was Jay Edson. But they both agreed on the reason. No Filipino is big enough to separate these two guys because it's really emotional, right? Mm-hmm. Rules meeting. I go to the rules meeting, which is usually nothing, but I want to see what happens to the protest. I want to see who's going to work this fight because referees have styles too, and that can impact on the fight. So in comes this guy. He's a colonel in the Filipino army, reaches in his pocket, pulls out this cannon, puts it on the table. Biggest gun I ever saw. I don't know what the caliber was, 190. I don't know. And he says, I understand there is some controversy about the official. There will be no controversy. This fight, and he taps the gun, will be refereed by a Filipino. Any protest? Not me. I'm not going to say anything with that gun out there.
Not a word.
Now he brings the referee in. It's a guy named Sonny Padilla, who later moved to Vegas and worked some fights out here and then went to work for the government. Sonny is the biggest Filipino I ever saw in my life outside of Roman Gabriel, the Rams quarterback. He's big, he's broad-shouldered, and he worked a masterful fight. He's the only guy I ever saw caution Ali. Right at the start, Ali had a habit, put his hand behind your neck, pull your neck down, uppercut. He put the hand there. The uppercut never came because he jumped in and said, next time, I'll throw you out of the arena.
He controlled the fight.
Frazier hit him low, same round. Next time, I'll throw you out of the arena. So they didn't clinch. They were afraid of this guy. It was marvelous. So they're up and down, up and down, up and down. And now we get to like the 12th or 13th. I haven't seen the fight for a while. I got a copy of it. I watch it a lot. And now Frazier's in trouble because his eye is starting to close. Both eyes, really, but this one, particularly left one.
Yeah, he can't see. Can't see.
And when he goes out for the 12th to 13th, Fletcher said, look, you got to straighten up. Now, Frazier was an in-the-crouch fighter. He couldn't, you got to straighten up. I don't want you fighting when you can't see, or I'm going to stop this. All right, now when he straightens up, that's an invitation. Jab, jab, jab. Frazier is standing there in the 12th to 13th round, maybe somewhere in there. Arms at his side. Legs are trembling like wet spaghetti. Ali's a foot away. All he's got to do is walk a foot, push him, fight over. Ali could not walk that foot. That's how much these guys left in that ring. And when it ended...
When the 14th round ends and Eddie Futch tells Frazier he's going to stop the fight.
Well, he tells him, no, he wouldn't. He knew he'd have trouble. He says to Benton, cut off the gloves. Benton takes his scissor and Frazier gets up. He says, you touch these gloves, I'll kill the both of you. And Frazier says, son, your eyesight means a lot more to me than who wins this fight. They stopped the fight. Meanwhile, Kilroy, who was in the corner, and we disagree on, the only thing we've ever disagreed on about Ali, he says Ali had developed a habit because people would jump in the ring and he didn't want to get hurt. After decisions, he would fall to the ground. He couldn't, after 2 steps, he fell to the ground. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Ali was so exhausted. He just fell.
So you don't know whether, who knows what would have happened if there was a 15th round. Thank God there wasn't. I had said in the 12th round to Jerry Lisco, who was sitting next to me, let them send these guys home and say they both won. I can't watch this anymore. I mean, it was the most brutal fight I'd ever seen in my life. And it ends. And now Ali is walking up the aisle. And there's Dave Anderson, Jerry Lisco, and me. Well, we were 3 guys he recognized immediately. And when he had to pass us, when he got to us, he leaned in and he said, fellas, that's the closest thing to death you'll ever see.
Wow.
And he goes by. And he wasn't far from wrong. So I had to now, I got to write. There's a time difference. I got like 30 minutes to write a column. To write a story is one thing. To write a column with an opinion, here's how I started that column. I said, Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier did not fight for the WBC Heavyweight Championship here in Manila last night. Nor did they fight for the championship of the planet. They fought as though they were on a melting ice floe in a telephone booth. And what they were fighting for was the championship of each other. And in my opinion, that never has been and never will be settled. That was pretty good.
You did an amazing job summing it up there, Jerry. Under the gun, too, man.
If I had time to think, it might not have been that good.